Cover four, what is it? How do you beat it? And the different types of coverages that coaches are playing nowadays. We're going to teach you everything you need to know about cover four. Let's check it out. So cover four, much like our cover three video, has two different elements to it. There's country quarters, what a lot of teams like to call it, where they're spot dropping to a certain place, or there's pattern matching, which if you watch our cover three video, it's similar concepts to that. We're going to cover all the above so that way you understand the different types between country quarters, aka spot dropping, and pattern matching techniques that a lot of teams are playing nowadays to get more hats into the run fit. So the first thing we're going to look at is the country quarters or spot dropping quarters, whatever it may be. And this essentially is going to be what teams are doing if they want to just have a basic spot dropping principles to their cover four. So what that means is everyone has a zone to get to, and they need to get to it as fast as they possibly can when the quarterback drops back to pass. Now, when we hear cover four, I need you to think of that last number, 4. That means how many deep defenders there are in coverage. So when we think about cover four, we're thinking about the corner, the other corner, the 2 safeties being deep as the 4 deep defenders. Underneath now, with the typical 4 down front, you're only going to have 3 linebackers to cover 53 1/3 of the field that's wide. So what happens is that middle linebacker is typically going to play that true middle or that middle zone, as well as those outside linebackers going to play the flats, hook the curl through the flat routes, okay? So it leaves the underneath a little bit vulnerable if teams are just spot dropping. Now, this coverage is great if you're trying to prevent anything deep. It pretty much eliminates any go routes or any post routes that are sent through the middle of the field. Now, as with any coverages, offensive coordinators get really smart and they decide, hey, maybe we can run double post routes to try to manipulate those back 4 defenders. And that's usually how cover 4 is beat, by manipulating one of the safeties and then trying to run something through either the middle of the field or the back half of the field. But as the offensive coordinators get smarter, of course, the defensive coordinators get just as smart. So what teams started to do to counteract this spot drop country quarters that we see is they started to run this match principles, and the match principles are same as the cover 3 principles, where we're essentially matching patterns, okay, also known as matching routes. So what teams are doing is if they do a certain route, that means the back half is reacting to the route as well. So instead of just that outside backer running to the flats and covering his flat area, he's now going to match up what the number 2 receiver does. And again, it's all going back to what does the offense typically give us? What are some favorite route combinations that the offense has given us? So for instance, if number 2 runs an out, we're probably looking for number 1 to run some sort of curl or some sort of go route, or maybe even possibly a slant. So the minute that safety reads that number 2 is out, he can then get his eyes to number 1 and then drive on a slant or do anything that he needs to do to disrupt that number 1 receiver. A lot of teams will run this too high cover 4 look to either a 3-by-1 look or to even a 2-by-2 look. And the reason they do this is because it protects anything that's thrown deep, okay? Especially with these air raid and these pass heavy offenses. A lot of these offenses looking to chuck the ball deep. So the way that teams will protect against this is playing cover 4. Now again, where the cover 4 is most vulnerable is underneath. So why a lot of teams will use these pattern matching or route matching concepts is because they can ensure that they're covering every single player that evenly distributes underneath. So for instance, if a team goes 2-by-2 and they just run a simple slant out concept, that outside backer is going to take number 2 and then that safety is going to drive on that slant. If you get in a 3-by-1 situation, this is where it starts to get a little bit hectic, where teams need to start to sort out receivers. So typically the corner will take number 1, the outside backer will take number 2, and then that middle back needs to get into the distribution by pushing out to a number 3 receiver. So it all depends on the coach's scheme and philosophy, but this is the basic principles behind pattern matching and understanding what the offense is going to do, and then we're going to react to it based off of what they're giving us. So it beats the old way of just saying, hey, we're going to spot drop to an area and just look for routes, because again, underneath is where you're most vulnerable. So again, what a lot of teams will do, they'll put in pattern matching principles, which then allow them to evenly distribute the receivers and cover everybody up underneath. So those are the basic principles of cover 4, whether it be spot dropping as well as pattern matching, man matching. If you have any questions or would like us to go into more detail about cover 4, let us know in the comment section below. We're always happy to help out if you do have any questions. Be sure to visit victorysports.com. We have a ton of resources there. We have a ton of free templates for coaches, books that are available, blogs, videos, everything you can imagine about the game of football. My name is Coach Chris Haddad. We'll see you next time.